Okay, so my name is Mishi Diaz, and my topic is biotechnology to address world hunger. So, what is biotechnology? Biotechnology is technology that utilizes biological systems, living organisms, or parts of this to develop or create different products. Biotechnology uses cellular and molecular processes to develop technologies and products that help improve our lives and the health of our planet. So what different things could biotechnology be used for? These are the three main things that it could be used for. One is to heal the world as in medicine. Two, fuel the world as in providing our planet with the energy it needs with like gas and electricity and stuff like that. And three is to feed the world using crops and different things like that. So for the heal the world, we look at the medicine side of things. So with biotechnology, it helps decrease annual rates of infectious diseases. You also see a reduction of child mortality rates across the world when using biotechnology. It also gives out better incomes and odds when people are faced with serious life threatening conditions. Biotechnology also provides better tools and technology for disease detection, uh, with things like mammograms and health screenings and blood tests. It also helps in designing different treatment plans to decrease health risks and side effects, for people who need a healthier lifestyle or a diet. And lastly, it helps with combating serious illnesses in developing countries. So, for the fuel the world, biotechnology uses biological processes such as fermentation and harnesses catalysts such as enzymes, yeast, and microbes to become microscopic manufacturing plants. It also does reduce the use of and reliance of petrochemicals. It helps improve manufacturing process efficiency to 50% or more on operating costs. It also cuts down greenhouse gas emissions by 52% or more, which is the pollution that goes into the air. It decreases water usage and waste generation, and it also helps in lowering the temperature for cleaning clothes, saving about $4.1 billion annually. So the feed the world part is what we're going to be focusing on mostly today. So it helps improve crop insect resistances. It improves herbicide tolerance. It generates higher crop yields, with fewer inputs. It produces food free of allergens and toxins. It also improves food and crop oil content to improve cardiovascular health, which helps contribute to better heart better heart health with lower levels of um, bad sugars and oils. Developing it Developing crops with more nutrition and solve vitamin deficiencies, more specifically vitamin A, and also helps limit runoff waste to the environment. So, the history of biotechnology. Biotechnology has been around since the beginning of civilization. Back then, they used it for a lot of everyday things. The, the Egyptians used it for making bread using the yeast. The Chinese used fermentation for brewing and making cheeses. The Aztecs used fungus to make cakes. Algae to make cakes. There were a lot of simple things that they used, but nowadays we think of biotechnology, more things that we do modernly, like DNA and genetics and stuff like that. But when we look at it, biotechnology is kind of everyday uses with a little bit more advances. So this is a continuation of the history. Mendel used biotechnology when doing his genetics work. In the early 20th century, and industry and agriculture started using biotechnology with a lot of farming and crop development and advancement in the 20th century. We used fermentation to produce acetone and paint solvents. In the mid-century, that's when the advances in genetics started to happen. So things were like with DNA manipulation. Then closer to the 21st century, genetically engineered plants, microbes, animals, and insulins came to be about. So if you look at the chart, you will see like I said on the previous slide, like the ancient civilizations used fermentation and stuff like that. And you see in the graph, it will kind of go up to where it is now with like the human genome product, cloning, transgenetics, and stuff like that. That's more of the modern biotechnology uses. So, world hunger is what we're looking at today and seeing how biotechnology could address it. So, according to the Food and Agricultural Organizations of the United Nations, world hunger is on the rise again after recent declines. This is due to poor education, pests, drought, diseases, and food distribution. People are living in poverty, and incomes sometimes are less than $1 a day. It is affecting 85, 815 million people uh, per year, but this was taken in 2016. So I imagine that the numbers actually went up. And it may not seem like a lot of people, but since we do have a really large population, it makes up about 11% of the whole global population. The increase shows about 38 million people are more going hungry than the previous year. So, and also 155 million children under the age of 5 suffer from stunted growth due to weight being too low for their height. And this is a video I'm gonna show you guys.
There are very many people who are fearful, people who hate technology in agriculture simply because of the fear and the non-science that is being put in front of them. When I found out the truth about genetic engineering, the truth about biotechnology, that's when I was like, then we need to send out the science more.
The Cornell Alliance for Science is training a network of global champions who are fighting that fear by sharing the truth about agricultural biotechnology.
Traditional ways of farming in my country are not enough to be able to feed the many. And I think that science and the technology that is happening in our midst could be a solution to that.
We all are coming with one sole purpose, one main goal, and that is to end hunger.
When I'm in Guatemala, you feel how raw it is. You can see people starving. That's what really drives me to be part of this.
It's my firm conviction that it's a fundamental right for farmers to have access to various farming options.
Access to biotechnology is really a social justice issue.
Through an intensive 12-week course, the Global Leadership Fellows refine their skills, build their power, and emerge as effective champions for science-based agricultural policies.
This is a completely unique program. They have what they call grassroots approach.
There's such a rich exchange of knowledge and wisdom. We're becoming like brothers and sisters and like family.
They have made us champions of our own issues, champions of our own people.
I see us as a team of change makers who are united by one purpose, to make the world a better place.
I cannot do it alone. I cannot succeed on my own, all by myself. That's why I realize the need to unite, the need to engage, and the need to empower a network of partners.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that totally changes you.
As they say here in America, awesome.
Isn't fascination and discovery wonderful?
Right, so that was just a video to show the type of change biotechnology is bringing to the world, especially with combating world hunger. Right, so back to world hunger, a lot of people are going hungry due to lack of access, uh, due to lack of access to safe and nutritious food, also due to climate and climate change and environmental conflicts such as wars and stuff like that. Malnutrition, not only when the food isn't enough, but also when the food is being consumed does not have the important nutrients and minerals used needed to sustain a healthy diet. A lot of people are lacking in iron, zinc, iodine, folic, and vitamin A. Those are the most common deficiencies that we see, and almost half of the world suffer from at least one or more of these. Right, so how can biotechnology help? Um, Biotechnology has both potential risks and benefits. Modern biotechnology can fight many things that accompany malnutrition, such as blindness, illness, developmental problems, and death. Biotechnology offers promising alternatives to synthetic foods. Advances like drought resistant crops would help to promote yield production from the farmers. Vitamin enriched rice, and rice is a common plate among the whole world. So increasing the vitamins would help boost nutrition values in the population. It'll also help farmers fight against pests. Higher yield for farmers during harvest, so you'll gain more crop out of the harvest and fight against famine. And so this was also from the list before. Um, when it comes to feeding the world, biotechnology helps improve crop insect resistance, helps improve herbicide intolerance, higher crop yields, like I said, foods free of allergens and toxins, improving food and crop oil content, developing crops with more nutrition, and limiting the runoff waste to the environment. So this was just an article I found of biotechnology used to improve crop production. Bananas in Uganda were being plagued with the bacterial disease that killed a lot of the banana crop in Uganda and neighboring countries. So at its peak, it caused about 67% of Uganda's plantations. So they're using a biotechnology um, tool that's helping them combat this bacterial disease. It's important because Uganda is really reliant on bananas, and which make up for about 30% of their daily, 30% of their caloric intake. So there are some naysayers that think that biotechnology won't help, and they are against it really being a way to end world hunger. So there's not really evidence that genetically engineered crops can deliver on all these promises. GMOs haven't improved crop yields in the developed world and are underperforming in the developing countries as well. In 2014, the EWG reported that the African traditional crops breeding resulted in much higher yields than the GMO crops. So the the natural products that they were using produced more crops than the GMO crops. GMOs are also more expensive to develop than traditionally bred crops. So in poor regions of the world, farmers can only afford to buy 1/10 of the fertilizer recommended for their crops. Um, Um, so another reason why biotechnology won't help is because an increase of food production also increases the pollution of air, land, and water. Also, a possible human carcinogen was found in by the WHO in a herbicide, which the main ingredient was glyphosate. So the main reason why biotechnology won't work to end world hunger is because it ignores the fact that world hunger is mostly the result of poverty. Economists argue that resolving world hunger requires political solutions and not just technological solutions. No technology can overpower the political and social conflicts that are keeping people poor and hungry. The number of overweight and obese people actually equal those of who are hungry. So one of the underlying causes of hunger is the extreme levels of inequality. So this is an article I found. Um, the author of the article writes, "The hungry don't need a quick technological fix; they need a basic social change. More than 60 million tons of excess sold food rotted in India because the hungry were too poor to buy it. Many people ended up selling body parts like kidneys, committing suicide just to end the cycle of poverty. So, a genetically engineered crop would have done nothing in the situation to help them." So, biotechnology and politics, topics such as stem cells, embryo research, and synthetic um, biology force political alliances, so you're either on one side or the other. Old biology was mainly observational, but now modern day biotechnology has the power to change basic life processes. So presidential candidates and stuff like that have to take a stance on either side when it comes to these issues. In the US, regulators have imposed discriminatory and unspecific rules that hinder agricultural and food research as well as product development. The Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Protection Agency focuses on the precise and predictable techniques of genetic modification and not so much on the likely risks of the products. So, some social aspects of world hunger, even in places where food is abundant, hunger still exists. Factors like conflict, poverty, disasters prevent people from getting the food that they need. Uh, Things like climate change, poor road infrastructure, sometimes they can't get to the food, they can't get to markets and stuff like that. Poor storage, so they might not have like a refrigerator, and the food will go bad, so they might not have food for a while, so it just get wasted faster. People in poverty usually spend about 60 to 80% on their income of food, which can force them to prioritize feeding their families over other basic needs like school and hygiene and stuff like that. And also, if an emergency strikes, they might skip meals in order to cope financially. So, what we're doing to combat hunger, the U.S. have begun to reinvest in programs to fight global hunger. And the United States, they have made new partnerships to lead um, Feed the Future initiative, which is an anti-hunger response, which has produced impressive results. 9 million people lifted out of poverty, 1.6 million households free of hunger, and 1.8 million children properly nourished. So, what can be done? Um, the first thing is just helping people create their own food instead of having just to depend on buying it. So this would help improve livestock and crop production, basic things like food donations, help transitioning, which is helping families from from poverty to self-dependence. At first, they start providing families with food, and then they kind of help them get off their feet a little bit and help them provide for themselves. Urban farming, which would probably just be encouraging families to have more control of their own food and grow their own stuff in like their backyard or their garden. Access to education, so more education equals more of income and more food, but also education a lot of times provides food for children, and sometimes that might be their only meal. So access to education is a big one. Social change, I think that's the biggest one. And when it comes to helping poverty, things like conflict and wars and refugees, a lot of times eating is probably like one of the last things on their mind. Global intervention, the U.S. has a lot of programs, government programs that help with people that are in poverty, but a lot of countries do not. Things like food stamps and SNAP for mothers. And female empowerment, a lot of countries don't do this, but it would be beneficial to those females to know that they could go out and they can buy their own food, they can make their own food, that they don't need to rely on anybody else. So, in conclusion, biotechnology does have a lot of benefits. It can be used in a lot of things other than just improving crop yield. Um, like I said previously before, in like the medical world and like when it comes to fueling the world, biotechnology might help increase crop productions and increase vitamin intakes, but it alone it can't end world hunger. Many aspects go into ending world hunger, especially socially and politically. The main underlying reason for world hunger is the high rate of poverty. If people can't afford to use the biotechnology products, then it doesn't really do them any good. There's a really big disparity between like the rich and the poor. Some people have too much food, and then other people have not enough. So social change, I think, is the only way that world hunger would end. Personally, I don't think biotechnology is enough to end world hunger alone. It might help in some places, but I don't think it's enough to end it alone.